The moving truck had just left and the street was quiet again. The human stood at the front of his new house, breathing in the cool air. It was not a big house, not fancy or modern, but for him it was enough after years of saving. He finally had a place to call his own. The neighbors did not wave when he arrived. They peeked through their curtains and then pulled them back quickly. He noticed it but told himself maybe they were just shy. The house itself looked old, the paint fading, the roof uneven, the yard wild with weeds, yet it felt like a new beginning. Inside, the air was colder than it should have been. The walls carried a smell of dust and something else, something he could not name, but he ignored it. He walked through each room, smiling as he imagined where his bed would go, where he would sit with coffee, where he could finally feel at peace. Then he found the basement door. It was different from the others, made of heavy wood and painted black. What made him stop was the lock, not on the inside but on the outside. A thick iron bolt. Scratched and worn from use, he touched it. The metal was colder than ice. He laughed nervously to himself. Maybe the old owner used it for storage. Maybe they kept tools or valuables there. Still, something about it felt wrong. The rest of the house was quiet, too quiet, like it was holding its breath. He tried to shake off the feeling and moved on. At night, when the sun went down, the silence grew heavier. He sat on a chair with a cup of tea, staring at the basement door from across the room. He did not know why his eyes kept returning to it, as if waiting for something. The clock ticked louder. The pipes in the walls groaned, and then he heard it. A faint sound. Like a whisper, it came from beneath the floor. His heart skipped. He froze. The cup in his hand almost slipped. He waited, listening harder again. The whisper came, soft but clear. Someone was speaking his name. He stood up slowly, the floor creaking under his feet. He told himself it must be the wind, or maybe the pipes, but deep down he knew it was not. He pressed his ear against the basement door, and his blood ran cold. The whisper was real. It was a voice, calm and steady, repeating his name like it had always known it. He backed away, his heart racing. Sweat forming on his forehead, he tried to laugh it off. "I'm just tired," he whispered to himself. New house, strange noises. That's all, but when he looked again, he saw it. A faint glow slipping through the cracks of the basement door. The glow was pale blue, soft and pulsing like a heartbeat. His throat went dry. Every part of him told him not to open the door, to leave it locked and never return, but curiosity pushed against fear. His hand reached toward the lock before he even realized it. The metal felt alive under his fingers, cold but humming with energy. His chest tightened. He thought of the neighbors who refused to look at him, of the strange silence in the house, of the old papers that never mentioned a basement when he bought it. Suddenly, everything made sense in the worst way. He pulled his hand back, his breath shaky. No, he would not open it. Not tonight. He stepped back, switched on every light in the house, and tried to convince himself he was safe, but all night long he could not sleep, because even through the glow and the locked door, he could still hear the voice whispering his name, calm and patient, as if it had been waiting for him all along. And in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. Moving into this house was not just a fresh start, it was the beginning of something he could not escape, something already tied to him. The next morning, sunlight filled the rooms of the house, but it could not erase the memory of the whisper. The human moved through his kitchen, trying to distract himself with coffee and bread, yet his eyes kept sliding toward the basement door, as if pulled by a string he could not cut. He told himself it was nothing, just old pipes or his imagination. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had heard his own name whispered clearly, in a voice that did not belong to him. When he went outside, the neighbors were watching again. An old woman across the street hurriedly pulled her child inside when he waved. Another man shook his head and whispered something before disappearing into his car. Their fear made no sense, but it grew heavier in his chest by evening. The house felt colder than before. The shadows seemed to stretch too long, and the silence pressed against his ears. Finally, he decided he could not take it anymore. He needed to see what was behind the basement door. He carried a flashlight in one hand, his other hand trembling as it touched the rusty lock. He hesitated, his heart hammering like a drum. Then with a deep breath, he slid the bolt free. The sound echoed through the empty house, loud and final. The door creaked open slowly, dust rising like a warning. The smell hit him first. Damp stone mixed with something sharp, metallic, almost like blood. He forced himself to step down the stairs, one at a time, the wood groaning under his weight. The basement was larger than he expected. Carved stone walls covered in strange glowing marks. The blue light he had seen last night was real, pulsing softly across the walls like veins. His flashlight flickered and died instantly, leaving him with only the glow, and then he heard it again. The voice calm, steady and close. This time it was not a whisper, it was clear. "You came back, finally." He froze, his breath caught in his throat. He turned the light of his phone toward the sound, and what he saw made his knees weak. A figure stood in the shadows, tall, slim, and not human. Her skin shimmered with faint silver lines that glowed like the marks on the wall. Her hair, long and flowing, seemed alive in the blue light. But it was her eyes that trapped him, bright and alien, yet filled with something disturbingly human, recognition. She stepped forward, chains clinking around her wrists and ankles, the metal glowing faintly where it touched her skin. "Do not fear," she said softly. "You are my husband." He stumbled back, his mind spinning. "What?" "No, I don't even know you." His voice shook, but she only smiled sadly. "Not yet. But you will remember." The basement seemed to breathe with her words, the symbols on the walls flaring brighter for a moment. He looked around wildly, searching for logic. But nothing made sense. "This is insane," he muttered. "I just bought this house, I don't even know why." "You were drawn here," she interrupted, her voice gentle but sure. "This place remembers. Just as I remember you, they locked me away, but I knew you would return. I knew the bond could not be broken." Her words felt heavy, pulling at something deep inside him, a strange ache he could not explain. He shook his head violently, trying to clear it. "No, you're mistaken. I'm not your husband." Her eyes softened, but her voice carried unshakable certainty. "Then how did you open the chains on the door?" "Only you could. Only my chosen could break the seal." He froze again, his stomach twisting. The lock, why had it felt alive under his touch? Why had it opened so easily for him when it looked so old and unmovable? "I don't know," he whispered, his throat dry. "I don't know what's happening." She tilted her head, the chains rattling softly. "You will understand soon. But there is little time. They will come. They always come when the bond is awakened." His skin prickled, her words too heavy with truth to ignore. He wanted to run, to slam the door shut and never return. But something deeper held him there, some pull he could not fight. Suddenly, a noise from above made them both freeze. Heavy footsteps across the wooden floor of his living room. Slow and deliberate, his blood ran cold, her voice dropped to a whisper. Urgent this time. "Do not let them take me, husband. If they do, you will lose everything." He stared at her, torn between fear and disbelief. Then the footsteps stopped, silence pressing down like a weight. The house seemed to hold its breath again, and in that silence he realized something terrifying. He was no longer just the owner of a strange old house. He was caught in something older, something bigger, something that refused to let him go. The alien girl in the chains looked at him with unshaken faith, and for the first time he wondered if she was not the danger, but the only thing keeping him alive. The footsteps above the basement stopped as suddenly as they had started. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. The human stood frozen on the stone steps, his body tense, his ears straining for any sound. But there was nothing. No movement, no voice, just silence pressing down on him like a weight. The alien girl's glowing eyes never left him, her face calm, almost gentle. "Do you see now?" she whispered. "They already know. They always know when the bond is touched." His throat went dry. He wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but his mind was spinning. The lock had opened for him. The whispers had called his name. And now footsteps had entered his home, though he lived alone. He forced himself to shake his head. "No, you're not making sense. I don't even know who you are." She tilted her head, her long silver hair falling like a sheet of light around her face. "You don't remember, not yet," she said softly. "But you are mine and I am yours." They tried to erase it, but nothing can erase what is written deeper than time. The words sent a chill through him. He laughed nervously, trying to hide his fear. "Written deeper than time? Do you hear yourself? This is crazy. I'm just a man who bought a cheap old house." "That's it." Her chains rattled as she stepped closer, the glow from her skin brightening slightly. "Then tell me, human," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "Why did the house call you? Why could you open the seal when no one else could?" His breath caught because he had no answer. He had touched the lock and it had opened like it had been waiting for him, the strange hum under his skin when he touched it. He could not explain any of it. "You look like him," she whispered suddenly, her eyes softening. The same eyes, the same hands. The same spirit that once swore he would return for me. They said it was impossible, but here you stand, and I knew. I knew the bond would find me again. He took a step back, his legs shaking. I am not your husband, he said firmly, though his voice trembled. I don't know you. I don't know this house. I don't know what's happening here. Her lips curved into a sad smile. You may not know, but your soul does. I feel it. Every breath you take, every word you speak. It calls to me like it always did. He felt his chest tighten. Something strange pulsing inside him, a mix of fear and something deeper, something he could not name. He clenched his fists, desperate to break the tension. Listen, whoever you are, I'm not here to play along with some story about destiny. I just moved in, that's all. I didn't ask for this. You didn't have to, she said gently. Fate asked for you. The basement seemed to glow brighter with her words, the markings on the walls pulsing like they were alive. His phone flickered in his hand, the screen turning black, then flashing with strange symbols he had never seen before. His heart raced. Fear clawed at him, but so did curiosity. He forced himself to ask. What do you mean by husband? Who chained you here? Why this house? Her eyes darkened, a shadow passing through them. They chained me here because of you, she said, her voice trembling for the first time. Because our bond was forbidden. Because I chose you when I should not have. They said you were weak, unworthy, but they feared the strength we held together. So they locked me away, waiting for you to die and fade into dust. The words hit him like a blow. His head spun, forbidden bond, chosen him. None of it made sense, and yet a strange ache stirred inside, like a memory buried too deep. He shook his head hard. That's impossible. I've never met you before in my life. Your life, she whispered, but not your soul. Her chains clinked again as she stepped closer, her face inches from his now, her eyes burning with both sadness and hope. Look at me and tell me you feel nothing. Tell me you don't hear the bond beating inside you. He opened his mouth to deny it, but stopped because he did feel something, a strange heat in his chest, a pull toward her, something that terrified him because it felt real, too real. Before he could answer, a noise thundered from above, the front door of the house slamming open, heavy footsteps rushing inside. This time there was no mistaking it. Someone or something was in his home. The alien girl's voice turned urgent. They're here, the hunters. They have come for me, and if they find you with me, they will not let you live. Panic surged through him. He spun toward the stairs, his mind screaming to run, but her voice stopped him cold. If you leave me now, they will take me, and you will lose the truth forever, husband. The word echoed in his head, louder than the crashing noises upstairs, louder than his own fear, and for the first time, he realized he faced a choice he never wanted. Run and save himself, or stay and face an impossible claim that might be the only truth that mattered. The house shook as the front door slammed open. The sound echoed down into the basement like thunder. Dust fell from the ceiling beams, and the human's heart pounded so loud, he thought the hunters could hear it. He looked at the alien girl, her silver-lined skin glowing brighter now, her chains rattling with every breath she took, her eyes locked on his, steady and calm despite the chaos above. They are here, she whispered, the hunters. His throat went dry, his hands trembling at his sides. Hunters? Hunters for what? For you? For me? He stammered, but she only tilted her head, her gaze never leaving him. For us. The footsteps grew louder, heavy and deliberate, like claws scraping across the old wooden floor. The sound of furniture crashing told him they were searching, tearing apart the rooms one by one. His chest tightened with every bang. Every snap of broken wood. We have to hide, he hissed, turning toward the stairs, but she shook her head slowly. There is no hiding once the bond is awakened. They will always find us. His mind screamed in panic. This bond, this husband thing. You keep saying it like it's real, but I don't even know you, he said, his voice rising, desperate. Why are they after me? Why this house? Her chains glowed faintly, the markings on the walls pulsing with them. Because this place is the seal, she whispered. They locked me here as a warning to you, and to all who dared break their rule. But when you touched the lock, you broke their silence. And now they come. The human shook his head, his thoughts spinning. This can't be happening, he muttered, his voice barely audible. But another crash from upstairs silenced him. The footsteps were closer now, just above their heads, each one slow and deliberate. Then came the sound that froze his blood, the scrape of claws against the basement door. His breath caught, he backed down the stairs, his eyes wide. They're at the door, he whispered. as if saying it too loud would make them break through. The alien girl's voice was calm, but her eyes burned with urgency. "You must choose," she said. "Keep me chained and they will take me, and you will never know the truth or free me, and we fight together." The metal of her chains shimmered as she pulled against them slightly, the sound sharp and painful. His hand shook as he looked at her, torn between fear and instinct. "If I free you, how do I know you won't kill me too?" he demanded, her expression softened. And for the first time, she looked almost human, her eyes full of something he could not explain. "Because if I wanted you dead," she said quietly, "I would have let them take you already." The basement door rattled violently, the lock holding for now. But deep growls echoed through the wood, voices muttering in a language he did not understand. Harsh and guttural, his chest tightened as sweat dripped down his face. His heart pounding, he could not deny it anymore. Whatever was upstairs was not human, not anything he had ever known. His gaze flicked back to her, her glowing silver lines, her calm but urgent eyes, her chains that seemed alive with strange energy. His fear screamed at him to run, but his gut whispered something else, something terrifying but undeniable. He believed her. With shaking hands, he stepped closer, reaching for the first chain. The metal burned cold against his skin, but as soon as his hand touched it, the glow surged, and the chain snapped apart with a crack of blue light. Her eyes widened, not with surprise but with relief. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The bond is real." He stumbled back, staring at his hand, his skin tingling where the chain had broken. "What did I just do?" He gasped, but there was no time. The basement door shook violently again, splinters of wood flying into the air. The alien girl pulled against the remaining chains, her voice sharp now, commanding, "The rest, hurry, or we both die here." His fear was drowned by the crashing sounds above. He rushed to the next chain, his hands trembling as he grabbed it. Again the glow surged, and the metal shattered like glass. Another chain falling to the stone floor with a metallic clang. The hunters roared above, their claws digging into the wood. The door cracked under the weight. One by one, he broke the chains, the air around them growing hotter, brighter, the symbols on the walls flaring with every break. Finally, the last chain snapped, and the alien girl stumbled forward. Free for the first time, her body glowed with silver light, the markings across her skin alive, her eyes burning like twin stars. She looked at him, her voice low but strong. "You chose, now we fight." The basement door shattered open, wood exploding into the room, and through the dust and broken pieces, the hunters came, massive shapes with armor like skin, claws longer than knives, eyes burning red in the darkness. The human froze, his body screaming in terror. But before the hunters could reach him, the alien girl stepped in front, her chains now gone, her power blazing, the air around her humming with energy. The hunters growled, circling, their claws scraping against the stone, but she stood tall, her voice echoing through the glowing chamber. "You cannot take him."
"Not while I breathe." The human's chest tightened,
his fear mixing with something else, awe. He realized he was no longer just a man in an old house. He was standing at the edge of a war he never knew existed, and somehow he was already a part of it. And as the hunters roared and lunged forward, he knew there was no turning back. The basement filled with smoke and dust as the door shattered completely. The hunters' bodies squeezed through the broken frame, their hulking shapes blocking the little light that came from above. Their eyes glowed red, their mouths twisted into snarls that showed rows of jagged teeth. The human stumbled back, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. He wanted to run, to climb the stairs and escape, but his legs felt locked, frozen in place by terror. His breath came in sharp, shallow gasps. The alien girl stepped forward, her body glowing brighter now that the chains were gone. Silver patterns raced across her skin. Alive and pulsing, she raised her hands, and the markings on the walls flared with her. The entire basement humming with power. The hunters growled, their claws dragging against the stone floor, sparks flying. One of them hissed in a language the human didn't understand, but the girl answered, her voice sharp, filled with authority. "You cannot take him. He has chosen." The words struck him like lightning. He had not chosen anything, not really. He had just broken her chains out of desperation, but now, standing here, the meaning of his action was becoming clear. He had stepped into something he could never step out of. The first hunter lunged, a blur of black armor and red light, but the alien girl moved faster. A wave of blue energy erupted from her palm, striking the beast in the chest and sending it crashing into the far wall. Stone cracked under the impact. The human's jaw dropped, Fear mixing with awe, she was powerful, far more powerful than he could have imagined. But as the dust cleared, he saw the hunter slowly rising again, snarling louder, its skin scorched but not broken. "They won't stop," she said quickly, her voice urgent but calm. "They will fight until you are dead or I am taken. You must decide. Will you stand with me or will you run?" His body shook, sweat dripping from his forehead. His instincts screamed at him to run, to leave her, to save himself. Yet his heart pulled in the opposite direction. The thought of leaving her, of letting those creatures take her, felt unbearable. He forced himself to speak, his voice cracking. "Why me? Why are they after me? I'm just a man who bought a house. I'm nobody." Her glowing eyes locked onto his, steady and unshaken. "Because you are mine, and I am yours. The bond is alive. They fear it, they hate it, but they cannot break it. Only you can choose to deny it or accept it." Another hunter roared and lunged forward. This time toward him, its claws raised, he screamed and threw himself to the ground, the claws slashing through the air where his chest had been. The alien girl moved again, her hand glowing like fire, and struck the beast across its head. It crashed into the stone steps, splinters flying. She reached for him, pulling him to his feet, her grip strong, almost too strong. "You must choose now," she said firmly. "If you stand with me, we fight as one, but if you run, I will be taken. And they will never stop hunting you." He stared at her, his chest heaving, his mind spinning. Run and save himself, or stay and risk dying with someone who claimed to be his wife from another life. The choice tore at him, but deep inside he already knew the answer. Another crash shook the basement as the third hunter forced its way in, towering over both of them, its claws gleaming in the blue light. Its eyes locked on him with hunger. His fear broke like glass, replaced by something else, anger. He had worked hard for his freedom, for his life, and no monster was going to take it away. Not now, not ever. He turned to her, his voice shaking but fierce. "I stay." Her eyes softened, relief flooding her face. "Then we fight," she whispered. The markings on her skin flared brighter, and suddenly he felt something surge through his own body, a heat in his chest flowing down his arms, his skin tingling like fire under his veins. He gasped, clutching his chest. "What's happening to me?" She looked at him with a strange smile. "The bond," she said. "It has awakened." The hunters roared in unison and charged, claws tearing through the air. The basement filled with the sound of battle. She raised her hands, a wall of blue light erupting between them and the beasts, but cracks formed under the hunter's blows. She turned to him, her voice sharp. "Focus on me. Let the bond flow, don't resist it." He didn't know what she meant. But when he met her eyes, the heat inside him grew stronger. His fear melted away, replaced by a strange courage. He raised his hand instinctively, and to his shock, light burst from his palm, slamming into one of the hunters, sending it sprawling across the room. He stumbled back, staring at his hand in disbelief. I did that?" "Yes," she said firmly, her voice filled with pride. "You are not weak, you never were, you just needed to remember." The hunters regrouped, snarling, circling, their rage filling the basement like a storm. The human's chest still burned with power, his body trembling with energy he never knew he had. The choice had been made, no more running, no more fear. He stood beside her, shoulder to shoulder, his voice steady now. "If they want us, they'll have to go through me." The alien girl's eyes glowed brighter than ever, her chains gone, her power alive, and for the first time since he moved into the old house, he felt something he had never expected. He belonged. The hunters lunged again, claws slashing, teeth snapping, and together, he and the alien girl met them head-on, the bond blazing like fire, and in that moment, he knew the truth of his choice. Whatever destiny had dragged him here, whatever bond tied them together, he was no longer just an ordinary man. He was part of something far greater, something the hunters feared with every breath. The fight had only just begun. The basement had become a storm of light. Claws and broken stone, the hunters roared like beasts, their bodies crashing through walls and tearing into the floor. But in the center of it all stood the human and the alien girl, side by side, their bond alive and burning like fire. Each time he looked at her, the strange power inside him surged stronger, his fear shrinking with every second. It was like his heart and hers beat in the same rhythm, the light from her glowing skin pulsing in time with the heat in his chest. One of the hunters lunged low, aiming for his legs. He didn't think, he just moved, raising his hand, and a burst of blue light shot from his palm, slamming into the beast's jaw and sending it tumbling back with a screech. He stumbled, shocked at his own strength. "I did it again," he whispered, She glanced at him quickly, her silver hair whipping around her face as she blasted another hunter into the far wall. "Not just you," she said, her voice steady even in chaos. "Us. The bond makes you more than human and me more than what I was together. We are stronger," the third hunter roared, charging straight at them both, its claws glowing with red energy. She pushed him back with her arm, stepping in front of him. "Stay with me," she ordered, her voice both sharp and caring. "Don't let go of the bond." The creature swung, claws tearing the air, but before they could land, the human felt the heat inside him explode, not just from his chest this time, but from his whole body. The light from her skin spread into him, weaving across his arms and chest, marking him with the same glowing silver patterns. The hunter's claws hit the glowing shield that appeared between them. Sparks flying, the beast howled, its claws burned black. The shield had formed from both of them. His strength and hers combined. His legs shook, but he stood firm. The energy alive in his veins, he felt her presence inside his mind. Not words, not thoughts, but a pulse of courage. Steady and strong, he looked at her in awe. "I can feel you," he whispered. She gave a quick smile, her eyes blazing with light. "Good, because they will not stop until we end them." The hunters regrouped, 3 of them circling like wolves, their red eyes fixed on him now, not her, as if they understood that he was the key, that without him the bond would shatter. His fear returned for a heartbeat. His knees weak, but then her hand brushed his, their fingers barely touching, and the fear dissolved, replaced by something fierce, something unbreakable. They moved as one. When she stepped forward, he felt the pull to follow. When she raised her hand, his hand rose too, their light combining into a blinding wave that tore across the basement. The hunters screeched, their bodies thrown back into the stone walls, cracks splitting the ground beneath their feet. For a moment, the basement was silent except for the sound of their heavy breathing, dust swirling in the glowing blue light. The hunters lay still, groaning but not dead, not finished. "They'll keep coming," he said, his voice low, the weight of the truth pressing on him. She nodded, her expression grave but unshaken. "They always do, but you are not alone anymore." Her words struck something deep in him, and for the first time since moving into this house, he didn't feel alone. He felt part of something bigger than himself. The hunters stirred again, dragging themselves to their feet, their growls louder now, angrier. One of them slammed its claws into the ground, sending a wave of red energy toward them. He braced for impact, but she grabbed his hand fully this time, her grip strong, warm, alive. The bond surged like fire through his veins, the blue light and silver lines flaring brighter across both of them. The red wave hit, but instead of knocking them down, it shattered against their combined energy, spraying sparks into the air. The hunters hesitated, their red eyes flickering, and in that hesitation she spoke, her voice echoing through the basement like thunder. "You will not break us, you will not take him, not now, not ever." The human felt her strength pouring into him, but he also felt his own power pushing back into her. Their bond not one-sided but equal. He shouted with her, his voice raw. "We fight together." They charged, not away from the hunters, but straight into them, the bond blazing, their energy striking like a storm. Claws met light, growls met fire, the basement shaking with every clash. One hunter fell, its chest burned through with blue light. Another was hurled up the stairs and into the ruined living room above. The last one tried to retreat, its body limping, but she caught it with a strike of pure silver fire, and he finished it with a burst of his own light. When the dust finally settled, the hunters lay broken. The basement cracked and smoking. He fell to his knees, gasping, the light fading from his skin but leaving a warmth inside him that didn't vanish. She knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder, steadying him. "You see now," she said softly, her voice gentler than it had ever been. "We are stronger together than they ever wanted us to be." He looked up at her, his chest rising and falling, his body trembling but alive. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Her glowing eyes met his, filled with both sadness and hope. "Now, the galaxy will know you have returned to me, and the hunters were only the beginning." His heart sank, fear rising again, but deep inside, he already knew he wouldn't walk away. He couldn't, not after what they had just faced, not after feeling the bond alive inside him. The basement was in ruins, the house above likely shattered, but in that broken place, something unbreakable had awakened, and for the first time, he no longer felt like a stranger in his own life. He felt chosen. The basement lay in ruins, cracks splitting across the stone walls, smoke curling from the broken floorboards above. The hunters' bodies lay scattered, twitching, defeated but not destroyed. The human sat on the cold ground, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his forehead, his hands still glowing faintly as if the power didn't want to leave him. The alien girl knelt in front of him, her silver hair brushing the dust, her glowing skin dimming now that the fight had ended. She looked tired but steady, her bright eyes locked on his. "You did not run," she said softly, her voice calm, almost proud. "You chose to stand, and because of that, you live." He swallowed hard, his body still trembling. "I didn't even know I could fight like that," he whispered, his voice breaking. What am I now?" She touched his shoulder gently, her skin warm despite the glowing patterns fading. "You are what you always were, my bond, my husband," she said with quiet certainty. "Only you could awaken this power in me. Only you could break the chains. You are not just human, you are mine." The words hit him harder than any hunter's strike. His mind reeled, he wanted to argue, to call her insane, but deep inside he knew she was right. He had felt it. The bond was real, every breath, every beat of his heart had answered hers. He looked around at the glowing symbols on the walls, now fading slowly into the stone. "This house," he said, his voice low. "It wasn't just a house, was it?" She shook her head, her chains gone now, her wrists glowing faintly where they had bound her. "No," she whispered. "This was a prison built to hold me until you returned. A seal to hide me from the galaxy. They feared us. They feared what we could become." His throat tightened. "They?" He asked. "Who are they?" Her eyes darkened, sadness flickering in them. "The ones who rule," she said, her voice carrying centuries of weight. "The hunters serve them, enforcing their laws, punishing bonds they call forbidden. When I chose you before, I broke their rule. I bound myself to a human when I was meant to belong to my kind alone." He stared at her, his chest heavy. "So they locked you here, just for choosing me?" She nodded slowly, her voice trembling. "They thought you would die, the time would erase you, but they did not understand. The bond does not end, not with death, not with distance. It waits, it finds, it returns." His breath caught, the weight of her words sinking in. He had never believed in destiny, never thought his life was more than ordinary. But sitting here, with the glowing dust around him and the hunters broken at his feet, he could no longer deny it. He whispered, almost afraid of his own words. "So, I've been here before, haven't I?" Her eyes softened, a tear glimmering at the corner. "Not here," she said gently, "but with me, always with me. In another time, another place you swore you would return, and now you have." His heart ached, a strange mix of sorrow and recognition filling him. Though he could not remember her past, he felt it, deep in his bones, like a story half forgotten but still alive. The silence stretched between them, heavy but tender, until the sound of creaking wood above snapped them back. The house groaned, barely standing after the battle. Daylight streamed through cracks in the ceiling, carrying the smell of smoke and dust. He pushed himself up, unsteady on his legs. "We can't stay here," he said, his voice firm despite his shaking. "If more of them come." "They will," she interrupted, her tone serious. "The hunters never stop once they are sent, and now that the bond has awakened, more powerful enemies will follow." Fear flickered in his chest, but when he looked at her, standing tall despite her weariness, glowing faintly like a flame that refused to die, he felt something stronger than fear. Resolve. He nodded slowly. "Then we leave," he said. "Together." Her lips curved into the faintest smile, her eyes soft. "Together," she echoed. They climbed the broken stairs, the living room above torn apart, furniture smashed, the front door ripped from its hinges, but sunlight poured in through the shattered windows, and for a moment he breathed easier, yet the world outside was not the same. He could feel it, the sky seemed heavier, the air charged, shadows watching from corners unseen, as if the galaxy itself had turned its gaze toward him. She stepped beside him, her silver hair catching the light, her presence steady and unshaken. "They will come again," she whispered. "But you are not alone anymore." He turned to her, his chest still burning faintly with the bond. "I never asked for this," he admitted, his voice raw. "But if it's true, if I really am the one who freed you, then I'm not letting them take you again." Her eyes glistened, and for the first time she reached for his hand, not in urgency, but in tenderness, her fingers weaving through his. And I will not let them take you, she said softly. The bond pulsed again, stronger this time, not just light, but something deeper, something unbreakable. As they stepped out of the ruined house together, the hunters broken behind them, the future uncertain before them, he realized his life had changed forever. He had not just moved into a house. He had walked into a destiny that stretched beyond Earth, beyond time itself, and with her at his side. He knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever hunted them, whatever galaxy-wide law they had broken, he would not run. He would fight, because the truth had been revealed. And it was both terrifying and beautiful. He was no longer just human. He was hers and she was his. And together, they were unstoppable.